In Umuagu village, they said a woman should never marry a man who never sweats, because such men are not human. But when Amaka first saw him at the riverbank, dressed in flowing white Igbo regalia, standing still like a carved spirit, she didn't run. She smiled, and that was the beginning of a downfall. Amaka was known across Umuagu for her beauty and skill with clothes. She designed bridal wrappers that made even wealthy women travel from far cities in Nigeria just to buy them. But Amaka had one weakness. She fell in love too easily. So when Obinna arrived during the New Yam festival, dressed in white ishago, walking barefoot on hot sand without flinching, she noticed him. He didn't speak much. He only watched her work. And every night after that, he appeared at her shop, perfectly dressed, never dusty, never tired. One evening, he finally spoke. You sew clothes that make women look like queens, but you look like a woman who has never been chosen. Amaka laughed. Then choose me. And he did. From that day, he became a shadow. He brought rare fabrics no one had ever seen. He paid in gold dust wrapped in palm leaves. He never argued, never lied, never aged. The village called it a blessing, but Amaka's mother called it a curse. A man who never eats from the pot is not alive in this world. Norma went to the dibia. After days of consultation, the truth came out. The man was not human. He was Ekwensu's whisper, a spirit that takes form only during seasons of love in order to destroy women who refuse heartbreak. The rule was very simple. He only loves women who believe that they have finally found peace. The village demanded Amaka leave him, but she refused. That night, Obinna proposed marriage. He gave her a wedding wrapper made of pure white silk with red patterns like flowing fire. The most beautiful clothes ever seen in Umuagu. The wedding was set for the next New Yam festival. But on the eve of the wedding, Amaka's mother did something formidable. She followed Obinna and saw him standing in the sacred forest shrine, speaking in a voice that was no longer human. She is ready. The ground beneath him opened, and shadows bowed to him like servants. On the wedding day, Amaka walked in full Igbo bridal regalia, coral beads around the neck, golden wrappers tied at her waist, headpiece glowing under the sun. She looked like a queen, but when she reached the altar, Obinna was waiting. And the moment she said, I do, the wind stopped, drums went silent, and he began to change. His skin cracked like dried clay. His shadow rose before him like a living thing. And the villagers screamed. Amaka didn't run. She stepped closer, tears in her eyes. So you were never a man? He looked at her softly, for the first time afraid. I was only what you needed me to be. The elders chanted to banish him, but Amaka did something no one expected. She held his hand and said, Then let me be what destroys you. Because she had known for days, she had seen the signs, the endless wealth, the lack of hunger, the way he never left footprints. But she loved him anyway. As the ritual fire rose, Obinna screamed, not in pain but in emotion, because love was never supposed to reach her. He was created to break women, not to be loved by any. And as he dissolved into hashing wind, Amaka did not survive either, because some love stories in Umuagu are not meant to end in marriage. They end in sacrifice. They said the fire ended everything. But 3 nights after Amaka was buried, her beats were heard moving in the dark. Umuagu did not celebrate after the fire. There were no songs, no dances, no joy, because deep down, everyone knew something was wrong. Amaka had died, yes, but the wind in the village had changed. It no longer blew gently through the palm trees. It whispered. On the third night, after a burial, the women who fetched water before dawn heard it first. A soft sound, clink, 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 like coral beads touching each other. They turned. No one was there, but the air was cold, too cold for harmattan. That same morning, the grave was found, disturbed, not opened, not broken, just breathing. The elders gathered immediately, because in Umuagu there was only one truth they always feared. A bride who dies in love does not rest easily. Weeks passed, and life tried to return to normal until a new bride came. Her name was Ifeoma. She came from the city, educated, confident, untouched by village fears. She laughed when she heard the stories. Dead people don't come back, she said. But Umuagu did not argue with her, because Umuagu had seen things the city could not explain. On a second night in the village, Ifeoma woke up suddenly. Her body felt heavy, her chest tight, and around the neck were coral beads. Cold, warm, and they were not hers. She tore them off in fear, but as they hit the floor, they did not even scatter. They arranged themselves into a circle. That night, Ifeoma saw her standing at the corner of a room, silent, still. It was Amaka, dressed in the same bridal attire she had died in. Her eyes no longer soft, but deep and endless. "You should not be here," Amaka said quietly. Ifeoma tried to speak, but no words came out. "He is not done," Amaka continued, "and now he has chosen again." Days later, a man entered Umuagu. The moment his feet touched the red earth, the wind stopped. The elders turned, and fear returned to their bones, because they recognized him. It was Obinna. But that was impossible. They had watched him burn, yet here he was again, walking, breathing, and smiling. Only this time he was quieter and more careful. But when his eyes met Ifeoma's, he smiled like a man who had found something he lost. He approached her slowly over days, not rushing, never forcing. "Do you believe in love?" he asked one evening. Ifeoma folded her arms. "I believe people pretend too much." He smiled. "Then I won't pretend with you." But that was the beginning of the lie. That night, Amaka returned, closer now and stronger. He had changed, she said. Before, he fed on love. Now, he feeds on strength. Ifeoma's heart pounded. Why are you telling me this? Amaka stepped forward, the beads around the neck glowing faintly. Because I died loving him, and I will not watch another woman fall the same way. This time, the story would not repeat. Ifeoma did not run. She did not cry. She did not fall. She pretended. She smiled at him, walked with him, let the village believe she was in love with him. But behind the silence, she prepared. The elders taught her what they failed to do before. A spirit that returns after death is no longer just a spirit. It must be trapped before it becomes something worse. The drums returned to Umuagu, but this time they sounded different, heavier, slower, like a warning. Ifeoma stood dressed as a bride, coral beads glowing under the sun, Ankara wrapped tightly around her waist. Obinna stood before her, perfect, untouched. But when she took his hand, she leaned closer and whispered, I know what you are. For the first time, he froze. The sky darkened, the wind rose, and the ground beneath them trembled. The ritual began. Fire surrounded them. The elders chanted. The village watched in fear, so much fear. And just as Obinna began to transform, she appeared, Amaka, not as a ghost, but as fire itself. A voice echoed through the village. This ends today. Obinna screamed, not in anger but in fear, because something had changed. The woman he once destroyed had become something powerful, and Ifeoma was no longer just a bride. When the fire died, silence followed. Obinna was gone, Amaka was gone, and Ifeoma stood alone. Or so it seemed, because as she turned to leave, the ground revealed the truth. Two shadows, one moved with her, the other moved on its own. The elders watched in silence because they finally understood. The spirit was not destroyed. It had changed and now it lived in her. In Umuagu, they no longer fear the man with no shadow. They fear the woman who has two. Please do well to subscribe to this channel for more interesting African folktale stories. Thank you so much for watching.